also too. You should be able to advance the slides forward and back.
Thank you.
Not ready yet, Lynn. Don't go yet.
That's fine, I was gonna ask you.
So, should be able to do that. Okay, I think we're ready to go, Lynn.
We're good? All right.
John, we should be ready
John,
to
yep,
go.
I did. Okay, good evening, everybody. It's 5:31. Today is March 15th, 2023, Wednesday night, and this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board, and we're going to say the pledge. We'll start there. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Randy, please.
Trustee Kidda.
Here.
Trustee Winslow.
Present.
Trustee Everson.
Here.
Trustee Marks.
Present.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Kangas, our attorney Roger Zappa, Fire Chief Dan Shanahan, Planner Zoning Administrator Jason McCarthy, and on Zoom, Lenny Bodinas, our Superintendent of Public Works, is here also.
Great, thank you. Do we have any public comment on emails?
No.
Okay. Anybody wish to address the board? No, probably not till we get going. Okay, so tonight's consent agenda consists of approval of regular meeting minutes of March 1st, 2023. We have bills payable in the amount of $155,310.66. No other reports. Our correspondence is an abbreviated Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority packet from today. I did listen to their meeting because it's right before ours, and they are struggling with the recycling market. Those companies that do plastics and especially cardboard, cardboard is usually the biggie that they can make money on, they're struggling. They lost first 2 months, $36,000, something like that, I believe. Apparently, a lot of the bigger companies are storing their cardboard that they didn't used to do, and they're shipping it off to the cardboard manufacturers, and now they're overloaded. So, they don't want Marquette County's or anybody else's. So Brad did point out that they figured initially that it would take him about 4 years to start making money. I think this is year 3, if I'm not mistaken, so he's kind of expecting that. There is also a list in here for scrap tires. They're having 4 collections in the city, West Ishpeming, Negaunee, and then in Gwynn, so you might want to check that out if you have tires you want to recycle. Otherwise, we also have financials from February 2023. And that's about it.
Move for the consent agenda to be accepted as read.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And we need approval of the rest of the agenda unless there's some changes.
I'll move to accept the regular agenda as presented.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'm not aware of any conflicts of interest in this agenda, so we're going to start out with Marquette County. Respect Marquette County, Travel Marquette. Heather's going to tell us what's been going on.
I'll just talk loud. Thanks for letting me come to speak with you today. My name is Heather Vivian. I am the Information Manager and Respect Marquette County Lead for Travel Marquette. I'm excited to talk with you today and give you just a brief update on what we've been doing for the last few months. So first and foremost, I just wanted to say that per all of your recommendation, we did decide to change the name of our program to Respect Marquette County. As you can see here, we got a lot of good positive feedback on that from our other partners in the coalition, so I just wanted to say thank you for that recommendation.
Is it working?
No.
If not, I can move it, I think. It might be because I shared the screen. Let me stop that share. And we'll try this. Try it now. There we go.
There we go. Awesome. So next thing, in November, we created these table tents that have a call to action and a QR code that links to our Respect Marquette County website. And we were able to distribute those to about 30 different businesses around the county, including restaurants, hotels, breweries, coffee shops, outdoor retail shops, and more. So those are a really great tool and resource that we have to get our information out in the community and in different types of venues. In our fall coalition meeting, we had a lot of great conversations that were centered around winter safety. And so out of that, we decided to come up with our 7 Ways to Winter Safely blog and media posts. And the topics that were covered in that we're planning ahead and properly preparing, so making sure to check weather forecasts or trail conditions before heading out on any adventures. Encouraging people to recreate together instead of alone in the winter. Obviously, it's always safer to have a friend with you. How to properly layer, so making sure you're dressing to stay dry in the winter is always important. The next one was ice safety, so being cautious of ice shelves along the lakeshore, and of course not walking on them. Staying hydrated and fueled during your adventures, so bringing water and snacks to help with fatigue that might come. And then watching the signs, so paying attention to trail signs and seasonal road closures. I'm sure you've all seen someone that maybe accidentally drove their truck down a snowmobile trail, so trying to avoid stuff like that happening. And then lastly, echoing the DNR's Ride Right campaign for snowmobile safety. In addition to that, we also created our winter trail etiquette blog and media video, and that covered things for trail user and dog etiquette, like keeping your dogs leashed on trails or not walking on groomed ski tracks. We also talked about some tips and tricks for winter recreating, like using ice cleats on the bottom of your boots to make it easier to hike on icy trails in the winter. And then lastly, a must-have packing list for winter adventures like some of the items shown here. So in our more recent February coalition meeting, we discussed our spring recreation issues and impacts. And some of those things that we talked about include deep footholes or tire tracks that come onto trails from all of the water and snow melt, dog waste and other trash that resurfaces once all that snow melts, a lack of users following trail etiquette in the spring just due to the excitement of being outside in the warm weather again. And then lastly, trail widening, which you can see an example of on that photo on the left there. That was recently posted by the Leave No Trace organization. So all of these topics of concern are things that we're going to talk about moving forward with our spring educational messaging. And then in our last meeting, we also were able to talk about some of our larger goals for 2023 for our program. So first, we want to work more closely with the NMU staff to relay this educational messaging directly to students. We know that NMU students are a key group of people that are using our county's recreation areas but might not have that Leave No Trace education. So after talking with the NMU president and some faculty members there, we were able to get our Respect Marquette County Leave No Trace video played at new student orientations to give them that messaging and that education, which is really exciting. Our next goal is to work with major event groups in the area to get our messaging incorporated into their events. By doing this, we're really trying to target visitors who are specifically coming up here for an event, maybe like the UP Beer Festival or Blues Fest, and then they end up using our recreation areas while they're here. So by doing that, we're just hoping to reach a broader demographic of people, again, who might not have that Leave No Trace education. And lastly, we really just want to help encourage donations to all of our nonprofit coalition partners that are the boots on the ground organization managing those trails and those recreation areas for everyone to use and enjoy. So we're just hoping to help them out. Places like the No Cayman Trail Network, Iron Ore Heritage Trail, UP Land Conservancy, just to name a few. That was my brief update. Does anyone have any questions for me?
That's great, Heather, thanks.
It's fine.
We're trying to meet like quarterly or 3 times a year, right, to have all these groups get together. And it's nice because it's not just public officials or elected or staff. It's a lot of the nonprofits and some of the business owners and stuff. So there's a good variety of people that are part of this group.
Yeah.
And they've all got different ideas, which is even better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the most special things about the program is the variety of different groups that we have involved in it. Because of our organization Travel Marquette, obviously we have hoteliers involved, we get all those nonprofits involved, economic development groups, municipalities, Lynn, like yourself. So it's really great to have all those different opinions and people in a room.
So what's Travel Marquette going to do this year? What's, the travel, the tourism, what's happening with anything new? Or, we've got all the same events.
Yeah, just in regards to what we're doing for Respect Marquette County?
No,
or-
just kind of Travel Marquette in general for the tourism or the, all the businesses and stuff this summer.
Yeah.
Anything special going on?
I feel like Susan might be better to talk about that.
Well, we are having the majority of events. Things are starting to come back to normal as they can be. We have different groups that will be coming in, so we're hoping that things will get somewhat back to normal. We're a little concerned, I think, about the economy and how that's going to affect things. Also, the fact that 2021 was off the charts with visitation, especially in July. And in 2022, we saw a double-digit decrease in people coming in July of 2022. So, just trying to read the tea leaves, look at the cards, and hopefully, we'll be moving forward with everything. We have been working with the lasers. Certainly, if you have any ideas about using the lasers in the township someplace, we'd be happy to talk to you about that. We're looking at just continuing partnerships and working with the different groups. The funding mechanism that we had originally was each month we would be reviewing different events, and it just got to the point where we were spending so much time talking about events that we weren't really looking at the big picture and things that were of concern, I think, on a larger basis. So we've determined that April and November are the 2 time frames that we actually look at events. So we encourage anyone with events we've reached out to the people who are between April and the end of the year to submit for funding. And as we're working through it, we're doing that program. Of course, snowmobiling seems to be kind of coming back, I think, more. We're always looking for places that people who are staying in hotels might be able to park their rigs so that they can snowmobile onto the trail. And so that has been something we've been working on as far as trying to find places that people can park safely and be able to go on the trail and enjoy things.
Great. That's good.
So Marquette Township will be sponsoring an event called Community Days. The target audience is Marquette Township residents as well as the community residents, and they've done this in the past as well. So is this something that we could put some Respect Marquette County information at?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
I'd be happy to talk
So,
with them.
yeah, it's going to be on August 5th, so do I contact?
Either one of us is fine. We're a small
Okay.
office. So,
Okay, and we're a small event, I guess I would call us, but we do connect with lots of people, and it's very family focused this year. So, yeah, that'd be great if you were willing to come and put up a display and,
Absolutely.
okay, thank you.
Sure. Anybody else?
Very positive. Sounds like you're on top of things.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this year. I mean, it's definitely been a challenge. In some ways, it's been really good because we have had the bounty of people coming to visit us that might not have been going to cities or might not have been doing the international trips. But now things are getting a little bit back to normal and trying to figure out what exactly that's going to be and what are things that people are looking for. So we're continuing with our digital marketing, the different maps that we advertise on, the print advertising that we do, public relations, bringing journalists in. So certainly we stay in touch with Lynn, but anytime you have an event that might be of interest to visitors or something that might even warrant having a travel writer come in, something special, something unique, we're certainly open to all of that.
Well, and the trails are such a big part of the township that, you know, we need to be involved. We need to know what has to happen or what's needed or what you need to do or what we need to do to make sure the signage is there and they're well documented or whatever, you know, so we don't lose people. I'd mentioned to you once before about going up toward Hogsback and not having any cell service, or even sometimes up on the mountain not having it. People don't think about that. They cross the bridge and they don't have T-Mobile service or whatever it is, you know, so just constantly educating folks that are coming to visit what they can and can't do.
And I think with the Respect Marquette and the ability for everyone to be able to utilize the social media and our blog posts and that type of thing, we've also included it in our travel guide too. Just including that messaging, and the more I think that people can hear it, and you know, definitely Heather was an NMU student and understands how important it is to educate the students. Yeah, so we're working with NMU as well. It's been really a great year from this standpoint. We've been kind of working with a lot more organizations, and as we've been developing the Respect Marquette, it just seems like we're getting a lot of really good momentum with that, as well as the regular things that we're doing. Thank you for the opportunity to come in and speak with you and update you, and I did listen to you, and it is Respect Marquette County and Ishpeming and Negaunee Township and Chocolate all thank you for doing that. So
Good deal.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do.
Guys,
For the whole
thank you both.
county.
Yeah, and it's important that everybody is involved too, and that's another thing that we've been working on, is trying to involve everyone, that it isn't just Marquette, the city of Marquette, although they are an important partner as well.
The biggest.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take care.
Thanks again.
Okay.
Appreciate
thanks.
it. Fire department is next. I bet you need to go too, don't you? Are you going to the?
I will be brief.
Okay,
I will be brief.
that's okay.
You probably get there in time.
I might.
Yeah.
I could always leave too. You know.
Oh.
Or I'll adjourn. I'll adjourn.
Yeah, I'll be brief. Another thing of interest with training is that we will have the BLP will be coming in this month, and we'll be talking about solar panels, which I know the planning and zoning department has been working on, and just give us an update on what their requirements are. And it's a little bit more information that we might need to know also, if there's solar panels on somebody's roof. Calls down a little bit, nothing out of the ordinary. Assistant Chief Cochran did give a presentation at Lost Creek this past month, fire and life safety presentation. We have been sort of looking at a ladder truck. I know that's years away. But I believe I said something last month, they're about 4.5, 5 years out. If you were to order one today, you do not have to pay up front. I'm just letting you know.
Intent,
good.
right?
Well, I'm just letting you know. I mean, we're still working numbers and everything yet, but we don't have to pay up front. you get a savings if you do a little bit, but you don't have to pay up front. So it's just something we're looking at. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that.
What are the chances, does it make a difference, technology-wise? Do you see, like, in 5 years that the truck would change that much, that it'd be a problem?
We're hoping it doesn't, because they are, I can't remember, 300 completely electric trucks, fire trucks, they have on order.
Wow.
Just up
Keep
here
pushing
in
that
our
grid.
climate, it's not gonna work. Well, we don't, and even the representative doesn't think it's gonna work either right now.
Yeah.
There's a backup, engine, but to charge everything, but no, we want them to stay right where they are, because we are getting too electronic.
Okay.
That's enough.
It's working.
We don't need all those batteries,
No.
in my opinion.
No,
Yeah.
even the batteries we're putting in our compartments now, the fire, magazines and stuff, which we do have all of our lights and our batteries, and we have electric tools, chainsaws and everything, but they're charging them in the trucks, then they're catching fire in the, and then the gas and which you keep in the truck. So, yeah, we're very cautious. Did get a demonstration of new thermal imaging cameras from Marquette City, and we did apply for a grant to update a couple of our cameras. And Menominee, the resolution, it's in the packet. I just thought it was nice of them to send that along. And as you probably saw, there's over 80 departments responded from Michigan and Wisconsin to that fire down in Menominee. It was last October. Burned for 16 days. And when we were down there, the whole town of Menominee, because the wind was out of the south at the time, was on lockdown because of the snow. So we weren't going to put the fire out. It was that big. Obviously, helped maybe a little. What we think we did. Just to cut down on the smoke and so people could go back up and get back outside. It was a nice resolution.
It was, it really was.
It was really nice.
Yes.
Yeah, 80 departments.
80 agencies, yeah.
Yes.
Do they have any idea of the manpower?
No,
I
I've
would-
never, I'll try and look into that. That
I would
is-
really like to know how many different firefighters and the manpower that was down there to help in that. I mean, they were there from Oakland County, Grand Traverse County,
Yeah.
Brown County, from all over. It's just incredible and I'm glad and I'm proud that we were able to be a part of that.
Yes, it was, and I spoke with you that morning, Supervisor Grant, and just to let her know we've been asked, and it's a commitment too,
Yes.
and we've got to care about our, township also, but we all coordinated together. All the chiefs got, and talked and said, okay, we can send this truck, but you've got us to back us up, those
Yep.
types of things.
Yep.
So it was pretty well coordinated in that sense. But yeah,
Excellent.
I would say you could expect at least, well, I don't know, because generally it was 4 men in a truck. And every agency sent at least one truck, so there's 320 people, or, so I'm sure it's probably a lot more than that.
I would
Yeah,
think,
it
yeah.
was big.
Yeah.
They did send a picture, I wish I could have gotten it in there, but.
Oh, you got a
An
pic?
overview picture, nice nighttime overview picture, yeah. It doesn't really justify, pictures don't, and,
Can we someday see that?
yeah, I haven't know, I didn't know how to get it up here.
Randy can
Send
help.
it to the man.
Yep,
He knows
Randy will
what to
take care
do.
of that.
Yeah.
Send it to him and he'll get it on there.
Done. Yeah, it's a neat picture.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Any
any questions
questions or
for the
anything?
chief? We're good?
Thank you and
Excellent. Thank you.
go Heat.
Good luck. Good luck tonight.
Yeah.
All right, Jason, sir.
Yes.
And
Thanks for joining us.
And Jason, the board does have that,
Oh,
your
okay.
sheet, so.
Yes, great.
Well, great. You guys have any questions? Well, thanks for having me. I actually offered to do this last year and then finally came to fruition to where, as a department head, I would come and present to you on what our department's up to. So I think it's very helpful for the board so you don't get blindsided by the things that you read in the newspaper or see in the media just because it's a planning commission activity and not necessarily a board activity. So, to start, we're looking at applying for a MNRTF development grant this year. As you know, we were not successful with our property acquisition last year, but we wanted to keep the ball rolling, so we looked into the recreation plan and the rec committee decided that they would like to pursue a trailhead off of the Well Road. So we've been working with staff and working with the Public Works Department, Manager Kangas. The beauty of this project is that it'll likely be funded mostly by MTN. The match, I will ask you for a little bit of money because I know that there were some distributions made from the excise tax on the dispensaries. But we're looking at about a $100,000 grant, and that would be the development of a trailhead and amenities off of the Well Road. So just today, actually, an idea came up to put that a little bit further south on the Well Road than we initially anticipated, and that's due to the fact that there are some residents in that area, and we do have space down south to accommodate that outside of the wellhead protection area. We have a lot of property down there that we could potentially develop for recreation. So the Planning Commission has a public hearing on this project on 22nd, which is next week. I would like to try to schedule a special meeting with the Township Board the week of the last week in March, because the grant application is due April 1st. So we're all trying to collaborate and get this project into the DNR by that time, along with letters of support. I will be able to present this to you in much more detail at that meeting, if that's okay with you. So we'll have a conceptual site plan of sorts, I'll have some scope items for you to consider, and then I'll have a full breakdown of what the costs will be and who's responsible for what. But what I can say is that it's a great partnership with NTN. They're talking about not only making a cash donation, but in-kind materials and labor, as well as maintenance of the park, some kind of agreement with our building and grounds crew, et cetera. So that's an exciting project. I think it's going to be a successful one. I know I kind of said that about the acquisition grant as well, but this one involves trails, and it involves a trailhead, and it involves a regional trail network, and those are all things that are highly sought by the DNR in their current funding programs. Next, we've had continued correspondence with Longyear regarding their proposed planned unit development. We're still anticipating that they will submit the preliminary PUD application in the first quarter of this year. We've been working on some residential solar zoning text amendments. For instance, right now, any solar energy system requires a special use permit. But because of the incentives that are out there for residents right now through the federal government, and because residential solar is just becoming more efficient and less expensive, we'd like to make rooftop solar systems a permitted use by right. So Eric, Planner Powers, has been working on those provisions, and we will get them over to legal once we come up with our finals, just to make sure that they're good to go. As well, we've been working on attainable housing zoning text amendments. So we've introduced the term accessory dwelling unit. We've looked at allowing potentially duplexes and townhomes and multifamily in different areas of the township. You know, there's a lot of undeveloped property still in Trowbridge Park, and a lot of that property is somewhat removed because of an undeveloped right-of-way or the lack of utilities extending to that area. So where it may not be feasible to develop a single-family home, it may be feasible to extend road and utilities to develop a multifamily type of system. So this is all preliminary discussions, okay? So this all comes to the board with a lot of background and context, but essentially what we're trying to do is tackle at a zoning level, which is some of the things that the Michigan Townships Association, MML, all of those entities are promoting, some of these very zoning text amendments that we're working on. So trying to open it up and have more creative type of dwelling units, as well as more dwelling units per zoning. So zoning is one thing that we can control, and we can open it up a little bit. So that's what we've been trying to do, and we'll have a much more detailed report if and when that gets to you guys. 2023 TAP grant application is still in process, so the two trail or non-motorized pathway connections along Wright Street and Commerce tying into our existing pathways is moving forward. We had a meeting last week with the grant agency and Alex Elsenheimer from the Road Commission on just firming up final design. So not sure if we're going to be awarded yet, but they're sure asking us a lot of questions about it. So I will keep you posted on that as well. Both Texas Roadhouse and Panera Bread, their site plans have been approved, as you know, but they have now submitted their architectural plans, so Public Works is looking into that. The fire department's reviewing them, and we're hoping by the end of probably next week to have them with the ability to gain their building permits from the county. I know that they're wanting to get going in earnest as soon as the weight restrictions are off, and you can see actually that there's some heavy equipment that were already placed there ahead of the weight restrictions for earth movement. Renovare development, that involves our 5-acre township-owned piece of property. They did submit to us a option agreement and a resolution for you to consider. I passed that along to Attorney Zappa for his review because I'm sure that's going to need some massaging. But I'm hoping that gets to you sooner than later, so maybe at your next meeting or the one after, you'll be able to entertain that and enter into an agreement with them. Predicated upon, of course, approval of the board, the concept, and then some of the finer details of how that's going to come about. But I know that they have had some positive work with the land bank and the Brownfield Authority. So hopefully that package will come to you very soon. We do have a proposed short-term rental at 2572 West Fair Avenue. That gentleman owns the home, and we'll have a public hearing on that on April 12th. So letters went out, ad was in the newspaper, or will go in the newspaper next week. A dimensional variance request was granted by the ZBA on March 9th, and that involved a property owned by Mr. and Mrs. Conklin at 8 Oak Lane. That is in the Northwoods Estates subdivision. So essentially was granted a variance for a larger accessory structure than would normally be allowed. But I think we can all agree that we'd rather see things inside than outside in the yard. So that was well to do by the ZBA. And then finally, Eric wanted me to mention that the climate resolution that he's been working on is proposed to come to the board on April 26th. He's also been working on business license processing with the March 1st deadline, but he did indicate that 70% of businesses, those licenses have been issued. And then we intend on commencing on property maintenance once the snow melts, if that ever happens. And then just daily general zoning inquiries that we get calls on the daily about properties and zoning and what can we do here, and FOIA requests and other things that come through. I'd be happy to answer any questions on any of those items.
I've got a couple, Jace.
Sure.
The township meeting is the 19th for April. Is that going to mess Eric up, or does he want to go to March or to May?
No, it's the 26th now then, because we moved it to the 26th, because you're gone on the 19th.
That week, you're right. My apologies.
We're at 5 o'clock that day, so we're right 2 hours before the planning commission, so that should work.
Yeah, and that's our joint meeting, correct?
April 12th is
Or
our
that's
joint.
the, yeah, okay.
Okay, sorry for that clarification. So do you want, we should probably set some kind of a meeting right now while you have us all for a
Yeah,
special
that'd be
meeting?
great. It won't take very long if you want to do it during the business hours, during the day. The public hearing on the project is going to happen on the 22nd, so this will not be a public hearing. It'll just be one of those project resolutions that are required by the MNRTF in order to submit a grant application. So I'll have a complete package to you before the meeting. Hopefully you get a chance to review that ahead of time. Otherwise, I'll present it all to you again at the meeting.
Would the 28th work for everybody? February 28th, or I'm sorry, March 28th, Tuesday?
What time?
That works for me.
What time?
Three?
Doesn't matter to me.
During the day then, Jace, for you?
Sure.
Probably like 3 o'clock? or-
Doesn't matter to me, whenever it's
I
convenient for
can,
you.
I have taxes till at least 3:30.
Okay, 3:30?
4?
4?
Four is
4
fine.
o'clock?
Okay, so 3/28, Tuesday at 4 PM. And I'll get the notice to.
Well, I have to post it
whoever
anyway.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. But it will be for the sole purpose of considering a resolution in support of that project. I'll get you some language on that prior to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would move to schedule a special meeting on March 28th at 4 o'clock for the purpose of, the purpose would be to consider the grant application for what grant is that? Is that a,
This will be a Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund Development Grant.
okay, so
I'll support that.
MNRTF grant?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, appreciate your time.
Do we have any possibilities or anything you can talk about with the Ed Scott family with their property, or is that?
So they're in Florida,
Danforth? Okay.
and they indicated when they get back, they would like to get together and
Okay,
meet
yeah.
with me. Seemed very positive. I mean, they were really excited about that project, of course, and then you had to wait a whole year to find out about it. I know that Tanya, the daughter of Ed Scott, had her cover photo on Facebook was a conceptual rendering of the park property. I can't make you any promises, but it did sound like they wanted to still do something and maybe form a consortium of the surrounding business owners, potentially to purchase or maybe try to reacquire. I don't know if we could resubmit, in another year and have a much larger match that would get us over the hump, but I'm sure we'll work through those options and present something back.
Okay, I just wondered if it was a dead horse or.
No,
still
I
have
wouldn't say, no,
opportunity.
she's still breathing, yeah.
Okay. Let's see, what else was I gonna ask you? I guess that was it, the meeting, Scott's, okay. Anybody else? Yeah, Dan?
When you're talking about the trailhead off of the Well Road, I would assume if you're moving everything farther south, that we would have to move our gate farther south then?
That's correct.
Do you have a site kind of picked out for that too then?
It depends on topography. We've had the great luck of working with Megan Hornbogen from Barry Polson's office. So we met today, and I set her off on providing us with a site plan. She's going to look at topo in the area, where we can fit some parking. And you're just looking at basic things like a dual-sided vaulted toilet, perhaps a little pavilion. The kids really love these pump tracks. In fact, if you go to the 550 trailhead, you'll often see parents just sitting there having coffee while their kids are continuing around this pump track. So that would be an item. Bike repair station, of course, our recycled plastic trash and recycling receptacles.
Kind of a kiosk?
An informational kiosk and a trail map about etiquettes and you are here, here's who to call if you get in trouble. It's kind of an exciting little area because we do own a considerable amount of property down there. And, there's been the idea of sledding hills and amphitheaters and things of that nature. So I hope that maybe we can get this small project off the ground and then maybe look at some other things in the future with the board's blessing, of course.
It's some real, pretty cool, ground back there. If anybody ever walked back in there and stuff, it's very, very nice ground, I guess.
Yeah,
The rock
topo in the area is
outcroppings.
really
and-
pretty.
Yeah.
And dramatic. One of the things that NTN had indicated is that if there is a trailhead there, they could develop some more family-friendly trails in that area. So instead of running into bikers that are going 25 miles an hour downhill, perhaps there would be some trails that separate users a little bit, which is always the best management practice. But, whereas they had to really work with the city to get a trailhead off of 553, we've been able to work with them, get it into our rec plan, have an opportunity to work on a grant, and then have them really provide most of the matching funds for that. So it's a good partnership and something that we hope that we can continue to work with them on.
Thank you.
We can always ask our residents or friends to come and help if it's a put-together day or whatever has to be
Yeah.
done, you know, for boots on the ground. It doesn't have to just be NTN, it can be us too.
Yes, good point, thank you.
Are you thinking like an acre, or how much would that space take? Just a little piece?
Maybe over that, maybe a couple acres,
Okay.
yeah. Because
Good
we're looking at
space.
parking for maybe 25 to 30 vehicles. And then, you know, whatever amenities, the pavilion, bike repair station, and whatever that takes, but not a tremendous amount of space.
That'll get us started down that way anyway, and maybe we can just kind of keep doing
Yeah.
more stuff.
Yeah, I think it was a good collaboration amongst staff too. We kind of really had a confab really quick and said, can we move this south? And it just gets it away from the neighbors that are right there at Grove and the Wellhead Road. And it'll actually direct people, you know, through signage and all of that. We can get people down the road and out of the way for safety purposes.
Yeah, it's a bad corner too. Okay. Any other questions for Jason? Well, this has been great. I'm glad this finally worked out.
Yeah.
We've been talking about doing the department for quite a while and it just didn't work.
Well, we have the coolest things going on, so.
Yeah, you do.
Just so you know.
John's got a question.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
John did? Okay, go ahead, John.
I just wanted to add real quick, this project being further south actually improves access to a lot of the response calls that our fire department gets out there. So they can probably go another quarter mile without having to stop and open a gate. And that's a quarter mile closer to the response, no matter where it's going to be out there. So I think it's actually a good idea to consider moving that gate no matter what, but we have to move it to a point where people can at least turn around and get back out of there, and right now that doesn't exist, so.
Okay.
Great,
Have a
thank
great
you.
night. Thank
Appreciate you coming. All right, Lenny, hey, still hanging in there? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
I apologize for not getting the sheet out in the board packet last week. I was sick, so that's why I wasn't able to get it
That's
on there.
okay.
But hopefully everybody got it in the email that I sent out. For wastewater, we've been just doing routine grinder pump repairs and replacements. Those kind of seem like they're ongoing, and I don't believe that'll ever go away. So it does keep us busy and it keeps us moving. We're also currently reviewing plan sets for water and for sewer, and that's for the Texas Roadhouse area. So we're kind of going back and forth with their engineer right now, coming up, you know, what they're coming back to our requirements. We're kind of reviewing them. Once those are complete, we will forward those to Eagle for their review, and hopefully Eagle will be able to approve them fairly quickly here, and they'll be able to meet their summer schedule for construction. We did have some grease buildup in our Huron Street wet well, so we were able to get that cleaned out actually today. It seems like in the wintertime especially, I don't know if it's the water's cooling down a little bit, that we do happen to get some grease accumulation in there, so that's kind of important to keep up on. We were getting some high level alarms just because that grease was building up on some of our floats and some of our electronics, so we do keep up on that. But again, this is like one of those public service announcements to customers or residents: please don't dump your grease stone into the drain, because it does end up somewhere, and usually it's ending up in our wet wells and on our equipment. We got to clean it. For water, again, we reviewed some of the water main plans. Staff, I've been attending, and some of our other staff have been attending some of the free workshops that Eagle puts out. Actually, I just was on one today that was for the Consumer Confidence Report, and some of our other guys were on that. I also did attend one for water chemistry, so these are really good workshops for our employees to attend on Zoom, and they're free, which is really good. And we get some really good information out of that. And we also get CECs for our water certification. So we're going to kind of continue doing that into the future. It should also help with our folks that are going to be out taking our water certification exams this May. We had one of our hydrants got hit near the Nirvana Center on US 41. That would have been late last month. somebody hit the hydrant pretty good, and it looked like it was fine, but when we went there, it was actually, we determined that it was broken way underneath the ground. It's kind of impossible to figure out who did it, so we got a police report and everything on it, but we were able to file an insurance claim on it, so that will be kind of a big project coming up here, believe it or not, here probably June. We're gonna actually, it's gonna be a major project. We're gonna have to shut down part of the highway and stuff for them to be able to repair this hydrant, just because it's so deep, the location and the soil conditions that are there. So hopefully we'll get that done here in June. Building and grounds, our staff has been busy with routine cleanup and maintenance. They've been busy shoveling and plowing, and I believe they're gonna be pretty busy in shoveling here this coming weekend here too. So we'll make sure we keep everything cleaned up around the offices and our buildings. The ice rink is now closed. We actually closed that a couple weeks ago. We were able to keep it open for maybe a couple weeks, just because the weather was not conducive this winter with making ice, but at least we were able to get some ice made, and our residents were able to get out there and use at least for a couple weeks before the weather really destroyed it. And for next month, actually, our first Wednesday rubbish drop-off will be beginning next month, and that will be starting on April the 5th. And we're going to be going with last year's hours again, 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. And we will also be doing the kind of limits that we had set up for last year. So that was, you can only come there so many times and dump so much off. So that kind of helped with the usage rates of that last year. We figured that worked pretty good, and we're going to go ahead and go forward with those kind of rules again this coming season. So that's all I have for now.
Lenny, do you suppose, I've been using the glass drop-off, at the back of the building. I wonder if it would be more convenient for your staff if that stayed there, or if they would allow that, so people don't have to wait in line, or do you like to monitor it?
I think the way they did it last year was if they had glass, they just kind of let them go in, and I think they had it kind of set up where they could just go there and dump it off.
Yeah,
so
they did.
If we can make it more faster for people that just have glass, we'll see what we can do, and if it's not set up like that, we'll try to set up where people don't have to wait in line if they're just getting rid of glass. We'll
Yeah,
figure something out.
they were pretty good about, like when I had, that's all I had was glass. But I was thinking how many people had rubbish, and the line sometimes at noon is just, like a mile long, and those people had to wait. That's the only reason I was thinking. It wasn't so much the glass people.
We continually, we try to, if we see something works better or not work better, we do make some changes on the fly. So, if we see something like that where somebody's waiting way back in the line, they just have glass, we'll see if we can figure something out to kind of expedite that process for them.
Okay. Any questions for Lenny? Great, thank you. We appreciate you zooming
Thank
in.
you.
Okay, community linkage.
Oh, Roger.
Oh,
You keep forgetting him.
I think I keep cutting him off when I print this. I did. Roger, I'm sorry. It's not printing you on the bottom.
It's on mine.
On mine.
It's my printer. It's my printer. Go ahead, sir.
Well, this month was no less busy than usual. Have a number of items to give you a brief report on. We did get the 425 agreement that was executed by everybody, recorded or filed actually with the county and the state. The bulk of my time was probably spent on the planned unit development, the Heritage Silos one, just getting that agreement finalized. There are many versions of it, and associated with that, there are a lot of components, easements, road easements, because it's a private road, water and sewer easements, stormwater easements. I wasn't quick enough. The plan itself will be on your agenda either for your next regular meeting or even perhaps at your special meeting that you just scheduled. It's about a 2.5-minute discussion at most. But in any event, that needs to be approved and executed, and then that would also be ultimately recorded. I did look at the Wade Trim proposal on the Forestville Road development that you'll be looking at in a couple minutes here. There's an issue with the Lions Field agreement, the use agreement with the 3 parties that are involved. 2 of them don't really care to be involved anymore, and the third one didn't supply any of the amenities they were supposed to supply in conjunction with that. So we'll be looking at our options at this point, but it looks like that agreement will probably not be continued in its current format, at least. There's a question just regarding the Legacy Hills water supply and well that Lenny and I have been talking about and scratching our heads on a little bit, essentially. I did a short review of the, there was a question on upset funding that I issued a very brief response to. We've got one ongoing tax tribunal matter that's slightly active that I've been devoting a little bit of attention to. And then, as Jason mentioned, I do have the Renovair purchase option on my desk, and that will be, my comments and recommendations on that will be ready for the next meeting. It's a fairly short purchase option.
Well, great. Any questions? Roger? Okay, thank you. Okay, now community linkage. Watch my margins. What are you hearing? Anything? Anything fun? TV6 was supposed to do their second segment of 2 on dark stores tonight. They did one at 6 o'clock last night, in which I answered some questions, and so did County Administrator Urbish. And tonight they were going to go to Houghton, I believe, and talk to them about their tribunal issues, and they pointed out about 2 Senate bills that McBroom has got pending and they're working on, so we'll have to go home and see what they've got on their recording to see how that came out tonight. We did also have Board of Review yesterday and Monday for 12 hours. It's always interesting to do that. We had probably half a dozen people come in with questions. Some didn't understand that the state put through a 5% straight across the board increase in your property taxes because inflation's running 7 to 8%, and the Headley Amendment keeps it capped at 5%, so it went all the way up to 5 this year, and it's probably, the realtors are expecting it's going to stay at 5 for next year too, which is 24's taxes. 25, maybe even 25. A lot of veterans exemptions, and we had a huge stack that we had to sign. So that's always good. That's for the public to come in and talk about their circumstances, special circumstances in their property taxes. I want to remind you about the safety forum that we're having right here in the community room in 2 weeks, March 29th at 6 p.m. We'll have a presentation from Upset, Lieutenant Lieutenant Scholander from Upset is going to have a presentation. We've got the fire chief coming, and they have some kind of a little presentation and something that they're going to work out for us. We're probably going to have CPR type demonstration, which is always good for families, and it's important to know. And we have the sheriff coming, and they can talk to us about what they're going to be dealing with this year, this summer, and their challenges. They may be recruiting too, if we've got some high school kids maybe, or young adults that want to join any of those forces, they can get some information for that too. So that'll be 6 o'clock. We'll have some coffee and donuts or muffins or something for everybody. I'd like to suggest to the board that we have that planning meeting, joint meeting, April 12th with the Planning Commission. Get your head thinking about what you'd like to ask them. I mean, Jason gave us a great presentation tonight of what they're working on. So if you have issues or suggestions or comments, things that we can, that's the whole purpose of the meeting, is to have us have a conversation. It isn't just a report, but be thinking about what we can do or help them with, or they can help us. Or we're going to talk a little bit about grant subsidies for especially that department. So kind of think about that. And then we're also having the joint meeting with the road commission on May 17th. So I just want you to kind of think about that, where they're going to give us an overview. We'll meet the new director. Just keep those in the back of your mind, because it's too easy to kind of forget about them. Put some questions together or comments. And then just a reminder for everybody, we've had some discussion recently about house numbers and building numbers, your address. If you're in a neighborhood like I am, your mailbox is covered. If any of the public services or safety services need to get to your house at 10 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, they're not going to be able to see your address. So it would be very helpful to have your address on your house. And I can say this because we put ours up. I didn't know it was an ordinance, but it's very important. Put some kind of a sign up, by your front door or the garage or something with your street number. That would be very helpful. So I promised Dan I'd mention that again. So,
And
anything
this
else?
Dan thanks you.
Yes. Mine's not lighted like Randy's, but it is up there anyway. Okay, let's talk to Manager Kangas. Consider revised wade trim proposal.
All right. Attorney Zappa had indicated in his report that he reviewed this proposal and the agreement. And during the course of the discussion, we determined that the scope of work had changed significantly enough from what you had approved 2 weeks ago that it should come back to you before we ask Lynn to sign the agreement. So the change that was incorporated was a request of the road commission, and that was to add additional research into the option of a roundabout at that intersection. So we went from one scope to two scopes. They're going through those two options very quickly. In fact, we had the progress meeting yesterday. And they have 2 weeks now to finish 40% complete plans on the preferred option. I'm not prepared to give you too much detail on that yet, just because we don't want to give the keyboard warriors ammunition when we don't even know what it's going to look like yet. Everything that we have seen at the staff level so far is very preliminary as far as determining both what's constructible and maintainable long-term. And that's really where the final solution is likely going to be. But it's only going to give us a chance to request funding to build it. So that's really all we're doing. So the change in scope adds looking at another option, one that's been on the table before, and it was requested to be put in by the road commission, and I thought, why wouldn't we look at it one last time before any options get completely closed? And it only reduces the percent complete on those engineering plans by about 10%. To the common person, we might not know that difference or recognize it by looking at them when they actually get to us in about a 2-week period here. So they've been continuing their work without a signed agreement, and they've been moving very quickly. So hopefully you will agree that it was a good idea to add that second alternative into their study, and you will authorize the supervisor to sign this agreement.
Randy?
I move to accept the revised proposal and authorize the township supervisor to sign on behalf of the township.
Or
John, because of the deadline, what are our responsibilities as far as, like, accepting this or looking at it? We won't have a meeting till April 5th, but the deadline is the 31st in there. Do we need to do anything or have another meeting, or?
We might have a 3-item special meeting at the end of the month, right? 3-item agenda. It's very possible that that ends up being the case. So scheduling that meeting earlier ended up being pretty fortuitous.
Well, but that's kind of the beginning of the middle, unless we want to try to move it to Friday with Jason to make it closer to the end of the month. Does that matter? A couple days?
I think it's too early to tell. This is moving so fast, my head ends up spinning by about noon every day. So I'm trying to get my bearings on it. And when we get a feel from Wade Trim that they're far enough along that they're pretty confident in their scope and appropriation budget, then I think we would schedule that. And it's probably going to take a lot of effort from a whole bunch of people. You and I had talked previously about garnering letters of support. Once we know that scope a little bit better, I think we could have something drafted for the various entities to consider. It seems like most of the entities we would want a letter from are probably interested in providing it.
Okay. All right, just because we've got 3 weeks now, basically. I mean, it's a 5-week month, so before our next meeting is what I meant.
Sure.
So just keep us posted.
I keep the 2-week time frame in my mind just because they've been working on this for 2 weeks now. And they only have about 2 weeks left to really get us something to take action on.
Okay. Any questions for John? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, John.
All right, next up is to consider the receipt of adult use marijuana funds. I did include the printout in there for you to see, so you could see how much we're getting, how much other people are getting too. Just put some of them in here. Linda suggested we kind of talk about this in relation to using it for grant subsidies or matches or whatever you want to call them. Do you have any comments first, Linda, before we start talking?
I think when we look at what is important to our residents, it's the visual things that they can see and work with. And so as we look at grants, it's generally that we're looking at something that they will be using, recreation property, different kinds of things. And so I know, as Jason mentioned when he was here earlier, that if we put more, quote, skin in the game, more money into match money, that we're more likely to score more points and more likely to get the grants. So I think this has been a long time coming. This isn't the first discussion about putting money aside to match grants. And I think the marijuana money's not gonna be there all the time. I don't think we should be budgeting for that marijuana money. And so I think this is a good place to put it. And as I said, a very visual place for the community to see how it's being used. So do we need to put all of it there? I don't know. I think $50,000 would be a nice fund to start with, but that's just off the top of my head. So, yeah. And you still have $50,000 to help something else that's visual to the community.
Ready?
Okay, so 20 of that's already kind of accounted for, because we donated 20 to the upset for this year.
Did we? No, we didn't say that.
For this,
20.
10 and 10, so, yeah.
10 and 10.
Last year's payment didn't get made last year.
It did not.
It did not, so we're catching up.
But we
So-
got marijuana money last year.
We did.
We did.
So so $10,000 last year, $10,000 this year, we put aside for upset. And this is my opinion, I think that money, at least the 10 from this year, come out of that marijuana money for
Yeah.
law enforcement, part of that.
I'll agree to that, but I'm just kind of flabbergasted that
We
10
don't.
wasn't paid last year.
Yeah, I don't understand what it fell off last year. John can,
But tell me where the marijuana money went last year.
That's two different things, though.
Well, not really, Lynn, because $10,000 was supposed to go for upset last year. So if it didn't go there, what happened?
Went up in smoke.
Go ahead, John.
Oh,
went to the general fund.
I have no response to that one. I'm going to be very careful and not comment on the question about where last year's excise tax revenues went. It goes into the general fund like all tax revenues do. I don't recall if we had earmarked any of that for a specific expenditure last year, and I'd like to do the research to figure that out, because I don't remember. Last year's upset payment didn't get paid because we, number one, didn't get an invoice for it. I guess that would have been Kim's clue to do it. Her being pretty much brand new, she just hit her 1-year anniversary, just so everyone knows. This is her first year of year-end stuff all on her own. She was able to finish it last year with Lois. So we never made the payment because there just wasn't an automatic trigger for us. We caught it this year. Now we have to catch up because we had promised that to them. They sent us the paperwork to support it now. So we did make last year's payment and this year's payment recently.
Just got missed.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we set aside $50,000 for grant funding such, and I don't know how you put matching, for matching grant funding.
Well, that's fine. Is it just for recreational grant
No,
funding?
no,
Or any
there's
grant
other
funding?
grant. We talked about for any grants.
Support.
Okay, we've got a motion and support.
Just a question, grants out of the regular township, not, because fire department has a lot of grants too.
Not the fire department.
Okay, just, so
It'd
make
be
sure we
general,
understand
it'd
that.
be general township grants, not the
Okay.
fire department.
Okay, want to make sure that's
Correct,
straight.
Ernie. Good,
Yeah.
good point.
Because then that will leave us with the 20,000 we did, leaves us another 33,000.
Actually, 10, because last year's 10 came from, so only take 10 for this year, because,
So now we got 43,000 unaccounted. That's a bad word. Unallocated. Unallocated.
Going into the
43,000.
general fund.
yes.
That would be in the general fund,
Unless
that
you
would be out.
want to make a motion to put it somewhere else.
Where?
I do. I
There.
have an idea.
Okay, so before we get too far,
Let's take her one motion at a time.
half of that was budgeted as revenue in the current year budget.
Half of that was.
Well, we did. And I explained it when we went through the budget process, that we estimated it conservatively, knowing that the number of licensed facilities doubled. Last year, we received 56,000 for one license. We assumed it wouldn't double completely. So we took less than what we received for one license last year and put it in as revenue. If you want to change that for next year, we can. If you want to change it for this year, we have to do a budget amendment.
Which is fine.
But the money's already here, so we're going to have to do a budget amendment in the other direction.
So let's maybe finish what we started here and then
Yeah.
decide.
Okay, so of the 103,000, we have 10,000 committed to upset this year, and we want to set another 5 or
50.
50,000 aside, correct? Is that
Yes.
the way everybody gets it? Do you have a question, Ernie?
No, I'm spinning
Yeah.
the numbers in my head. That's 60,000 we're talking about now. Okay.
Now, remember, this is just committing the funds, and John and I talked about actually having an account number so that we can see it. So Kim would have to check on that to see, because
Correct.
we do have to follow state guidelines. So that doesn't mean that we can't use it for something else, or that we don't put the rest of this all in that fund, okay? Just so you know, we can do with it what we want. If we find that we just want to do 40,000 and put the rest in the general fund, and, whatever, we can. Just so everybody's clear on that.
Well, if we allotted 50% of it into our budget, what is that number? 50% of what? Because we didn't know what it was, right?
It was 50,000, period.
50,000.
Yep. We took a number that was less than what we received last year for one licensed facility. One licensed facility generated 56,000 last year. We knew that the revenue per licensed facility is going to be dropping over time because the market is now saturated. So we're told. But we also knew that we were going to have 2 licensed facilities online this year. So drop the 56 to 50, double it to 100, we'll only budget half of that. That's what we did,
That's fine.
because we had no idea what we were going to get, and honestly, we won't know what next year's will be either.
So we have more like 43,000 that we could, that's not spoken for at this point. Would you like to amend your motion for 43?
I can do that, but then I can tell you at the end of the year when the budget is, when the accounting is all done, if there's excess money, I will probably come back and ask for another 7,000 to move.
I just think we'll leave it at 50, and they gotta do a budget amendment anyway. Yes. And that'll be seed money for township grants, so that'll be that line item.
So we may use it next week or in 2 weeks.
You're talking about the 50,000 now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. thank you.
Okay, so my other comment is, and I forgot that we had budgeted that 50,000, but I talked to the manager, and I'm being selfish here, I would like my conference room to get done this year, because elections in 2020, I'd like it to be done before 2024, because I'm gonna have a room that's gonna be secured for all the absentee ballots, and I really don't wanna use our current conference room to secure that. And that means, because with security tightening, I could get audited and they're gonna say, where are your absentee ballots? And they're gonna be in this conference room that everyone else uses. And I should have a room that's locked. And it's not my office. I don't have a big enough office to do that. And at the same token, the treasurer and the deputy treasurer and the trustees do need an area to work. And we have 20,000 budgeted this year. The final cost, I believe, when I talked to the manager, was brought down to 55,000. So it would be another 35,000 on top of what we budgeted to do. And if it doesn't get done till the end of this year, that's fine, but I really need it done before the election season in '24. So that's my comments.
So you'd like 35,000 of what we
Of the-
have left?
Yes, I would, to finish that and get it going as soon as we can, so we can get that up and running.
So it ends up being an office, a conference room, and then did that include any of the HVAC work we were gonna do?
It includes all of the necessary HVAC, electrical, lighting improvements. That's why the total is 55,000. And I think that might even be, it's really close to that 55 number. I don't have the number in front of me to verify, but
I'd
we
like to
have
see
files.
that because I know that we have issues with heating and cooling in that office anyway. We're wasting heat and air conditioning, so I would be all about that. Ernie?
I can see where the clerk's going, everything else, and talking about the treasurer, whether I have a spot like that doesn't make a difference. But we're jumping from 20,000 to 55,000.
Yes.
My personal feeling is that we're going out on bids now. It's too much money for us to just bring someone in to do it and that. I think we're gonna have to go out on bids, because if you look at our policies within the township, there's a dollar amount there that we have to do it.
25 or somewhere in there.
So we have to do something like that. John wants to do it, so.
Go ahead, John.
I don't disagree with the premise, but we might have to back up the truck and pay a bill first, because it's already been designed under the design-build premise. So all the design work is done. If we're going out to bid now, we have to pay them for the work that got us to this point. So that needs to be understood.
I thought when he came in at the time, he was looking at it, was gonna just give us a proposal, and that was all. Not do any design work that was gonna cost us anything at that point in time.
It was discussed as a design-build proposal.
Yeah, this was after that.
Yeah, and the issue with design build, Ernie, is you really get into trouble, as Carl would know, is if you design something and and I'm assuming he spent a lot of time on this, designing it and everything, then you turn around and put it out on bids. So he did all the work for basically nothing, that he doesn't get the project. And the thing that the manager reminded me of is if we don't do it now, the costs are probably gonna go up anyway. And I'm not sure on local contractor availability anyway. They're all fairly busy at this time, but, I mean, we could put it out on the bids, but the manager's right. We'd have to pay him for his design of that area.
I did not realize that there was
Okay, well,
another meeting.
that's fine.
Initially, it was, I think it was 20,000, his basic idea, just like off the top of his head. And then we asked him to kind of hone it down a little bit and say, okay, this is what we're looking for. you know.
Yes.
So
They,
that's where.
they had to put a budget together, and in order to do that, you have to pretty much put the plans together. It's the same issue we're dealing with the intersection out here. You can't really get a good opinion of probable cost without some level of design work being done.
Yeah, and you don't want to end up, I know other entities in this area that have went down the wrong road, that have gotten these things designed and they went out on bids, and then they don't look very good to the contractor community by doing that, so. Because you just had someone come in and spend time to design it, and then you put it out on bids and someone else got it, and they didn't design it, so that's not a very good practice.
Linda?
So in support of doing this, I'm in support of it because today when I came in to use the small conference room, I walked around trying to find pens, trying to find a copy machine, and I was like, and so I would like that office space to be available for the trustees. That would have been very valuable. I did steal someone's pens, but they won't miss it.
They were these kind, they were there for steel.
Yeah, they were those kind. But really, there needs to
Ernie's
be
got
some
one.
space that's designed that we can sit down and do what we need.
Yeah,
And you have
should open your mail
quiet
and do
area
whatever.
there too.
Yeah, it was like, oh, okay.
Beehive.
Ernie?
Following up on it, we talked about 20,000, now we're up to 50-some thousand dollars in that. So we have to come up with another 30-some thousand dollars out of the
Correct.
general fund, or do we take 43,000 left over from the,
That's what he's recommending.
that's what we're talking about, is allocating that $43,000 to this on top of the 20?
33.
Well, about 35, so you would have
A little left.
a little left. But you will have to put a table and chairs, so you probably would go over a little bit. I mean, I don't care if you want to put 43 in there.
I'm just looking what's left over from the marijuana
Yeah.
dollars,
Can
43,000.
he
That's
get that
basically
done
what
this,
it's
this
at.
year?
I believe if we approved it, I know that their building season's probably not gonna start for a few more months, so hopefully they could get on it. And I'm not sure if John's talked to Bromley at all, but,
So he suggested that they would potentially have time in their schedule yet this winter. They might have it completely built, but no doors to put in the frames. He thinks
Maybe
that's
they
the
have to
longest lead time item on this whole thing. The actual slab that hangs in the door frame.
You gonna make that
Is that
a motion, Randy?
yes, I'll make that motion that we allocate, what does the board
The
want?
unallocated amount of
Just,
the,
yeah, put unallocated.
Okay, so the board, so I'll make a motion that the unallocated amount of marijuana money be allocated to the conference room / office project.
or,
Lots of support. Okay. Any other questions?
do we have any time frame on this, John?
Tomorrow morning, Lenny and I will get a hold of Bromley and ask him to get us short form agreement for Roger to take a look at and try to get it going as soon as we can. And if everyone's in agreement on the budget, the scope, I think, is pretty much what it has to be. You may want to make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign that agreement once it's been reviewed by legal.
I'll amend my motion along with the unallocated amount of marijuana money to the project, authorize staff to have legal review, and once that is done, have the supervisor sign the agreement. That'll be
Supporter
amended.
supports.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
With weight restrictions, we know they're not gonna be coming off anytime soon, so he probably would have time to do
It's an
it.
inside job, so that's a
Yeah.
benefit. They don't have to be outside if he's not doing something else. We good? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Now, John, where am I gonna sit in the meantime?
Put you in the
I've got an
conference
extra
room.
table in my office.
Put you in the conference room till it's done.
All right, I did put the priority goals in here for 2023 again, just to make sure everybody's on the same page, if this is the way you want to go forward. If you remember, we had a 5-year strategic plan. Some of these items were in there. We had a 2023 priority goal list, so I put the two of them together, because Randy says, you know, we've already talked about this. I said, yeah, but this is a compilation now. So this is something we can go forward on for this year, assuming we even can or have the money for it or not. And then it kind of blends into the strategic plan. So we at least have some goals set aside for the rest of this year and the next 4. That's was my intent. So if somebody wants to add something, if you think you want me to actually have this created and put up behind us, if you just want a dartboard and we can cross off things as we get to them, or,
Well, I think, Lynn, we can take the ambulance off because that's ordered.
yep.
We can actually probably check off the seed money for recreation grants because we now put 50,000 away for that.
Yep, but I think you want them visible. So I think, yes, we can say they're done, but I think
still put it up there?
I think you want to see it and the public needs to
Yeah.
see it.
We
And
put
we need
stars
to
up
be
last time.
reminded of where we are
Yeah,
at.
maybe put a star on it that it's
Yeah.
done
Yeah.
or in process.
Okay.
So I will make a motion to accept the priority goals of 2023 as presented.
Support.
Okay. And if you think of more things that we need to put on or something to come off, just let me know. Otherwise, I'm gonna get working on this, so we have something that we can show the public that we're working on.
And actually, Lynn, now with our new printer that's of wide format, I
Yeah.
think you could print
I already
that.
figured I'd
Yeah,
check with Jason.
print that and then put it up on the wall
Yep,
behind us.
Put some colors or
Yeah.
something. Okay. Good. We had a motion.
Yes, we did.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
You can put house number addresses -1. We got this
That's
short-term
right.
goal.
I even sent a picture to the fire chief and said, okay, I'm official now, so I can bring it up. Okay, next up is planning commission. We kind of got their overview, but
You already got it. He did an excellent job.
nothing specific. You're more the specifics and he's the big picture.
Well, he did talk about our public hearings.
Did,
or-
yeah.
Yeah, really, that's what we talked about. It's exciting, is what I'll say, to talk about the solar changes, recommendations, and it's very exciting to talk about new housing starts for our young people. I was reminded that last week, there were only 7 houses for sale in Marquette.
It's true, the realtor said that.
7.
Yep.
Yeah. So, folks.
Actually, I think, no, actually, well, maybe this is just this realtor that I talked to.
Oh, that could be.
There were 7 or 8 on the market, but 7 of them pending, so there was really like 1.
He told me, the person I talked to said 7. So either way, it's not enough houses for the population to
But
move
geolog,
You can add to that.
Yours?
here.
You can add to that, the people who sell their homes of late have received bids higher than the requested amount.
Yeah, cash. They've
They're
been
still,
cash
they're still
offers.
going that way, hey?
Yeah. But anyway,
What
Geographic?
Come back around.
geographic, yes. What geographic area you say Marquette? We're
city.
not, we're gonna use Marquette County or we're gonna use Marquette
no,
Township?
they used the city of Marquette for the
Okay.
number I was given,
Okay.
7. That's,
That's not many, no.
so, yeah, if you're selling your house.
No.
Someplace to go.
Right.
You're gonna move to Florida or something, it works.
Year and a half, 2.
Okay, roads committee?
Yes, we did meet last week, and we had 3 concerned township members, residents that came to the meeting. And so that was kind of a good thing, because we headed them off there instead of them being here. And we had a real good meeting, a real good interaction with them, and we just shared with them where we're at. And tonight, we did a little bit more on the new proposal. So we also are going to go ahead with the crack sealing that we had talked about for last year. It's going to go on this year. Yes, question?
I have a question on what is gonna be done on Commerce? I mean, this is just falling apart.
It is. There's almost more potholes than pavement left.
Yeah, is something scheduled to have a Band-Aid?
That's county, that's county.
Yeah, right, we're gonna wait for the
It
county.
is county primary, and they applied for grant funding shortly after I arrived here. It was for a pilot project that was awarded to Dickinson County.
Perfect.
So
That's too far away.
I don't know, I agree. I don't know what the next best plan is. Unfortunately, we've got a million to multi-million-dollar project out here right at the end of Commerce that we're trying to figure out simultaneously. So maybe our ask needs to be considering whether or not getting there should be addressed also from one direction.
We're gonna ask for millions, might as well add another one, hey?
It's getting very bad.
Well, that's actually a really good thought and timely. I will bounce that off of them and see what they think. Maybe we can justify it, maybe not.
Fire department's trucks are gonna get ruined.
Well, my personal vehicle, your personal vehicle. Anyone that drives down there right now, if you don't pay attention, your suspension, your tires, your rims, you name it.
Keeps the speed down.
I have
Carl,
one
were they-
bright
were
spot,
they
though, we
worried?
didn't talk about streetlights.
Did you? Were they talking about Wright Street, the 3 people? Is that?
Yes.
Okay, that
Yeah,
was
they
the
were,
issue.
they were concerned residents from out on Forestville. And, the biggest issue with that whole thing is elevations. It's you're dropping down from Commerce, you're coming across and dropping down on both sides, and then it really drops off on Forestville. And so that's gonna require a lot of changes in the grade, and then right in the middle, you got that little creek down there that you gotta be careful of, so. That's all I have, if
Okay.
there's any questions.
Good, good. So what we planned for crack sealing last year, we're doing this year? Is that what you
Yes,
said?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know how much left to subsidize that. Well, we lost our public. Any announcements from the board? Randy?
Our board photo is now in the back of the room, printed and on the wall. It's on the website also, so our current board now is on the, up there. Hopefully this week, I talked to the printers of my absentee applications, which we're gonna get reimbursed for. They were printing late last week, and I'm hoping they get mailed out early this week, and residents start getting them by the end of this week. And then that'll be for the May 2nd election. And there is, pay attention on these new applications, because there's a box there with proposal 2 that if you check that, for all future elections, that application will cover a ballot. So you won't have to send an application out any longer. When the ballots come in, we'll send it to you. It's just more efficient, it's less work for me. But that's proposal 2 triggered that. The applications will have return postage provided, and the absentee ballots will have return postage on there, because that was, again, another proposal 2 trigger. And so we'll hopefully get that going here sometime soon when the applications get mailed out, which hopefully are this week.
Anybody else? Any announcements? Linda?
Community Day is scheduled for Saturday, August 5th. It will start at 1 and it will end at 10 p.m. and the planning committee is working diligently at putting it together.
Starts at 1 o'clock.
It starts at 1 o'clock, giving
Okay.
everybody time to get their displays and stuff up between, 1 to 10 is good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Can you tell us any more about it? Like what you're gonna have, or are you waiting for a while?
You're gonna have to wait.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
But there's a lot of stuff that's coming down. It's gonna be fun, especially for the families,
Yeah.
which it should be intended for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the idea. Okay, that's exciting. Anybody else? Okay, you're up, manager.
You do not have a written report in your packet from me this week, specifically because the majority of what I've been working on since we last met was on your agenda as a separate item. So that has really been consuming probably far more of my time than I'd like it to. But I think it's important enough for our community, whether or not we ever see additional development on Forestville Road, we need to come up with a solution for that intersection. So, and I'm also not too proud to admit that while I have my personal and professional preferences on what the improvement should look like, I don't always get what I want, but it's not about me anyway. This is certainly about what hopefully is best for the community in the long term, but also what is constructible and maintainable for the road commission. So the only other thing I have for you, in case anyone happens to see this recording or is watching remotely, if they're interested in a wide format scanner and or plotter, actually both, because they will be a package, that was declared surplus, and we have the ad ready to go probably tomorrow. We'll put it on Facebook, we'll put it on our website, we're gonna send it to a couple of organizations that we think might have interest in it, and hopefully we'll get something for it. Right now, it's taking up space where Ernie's office is gonna have to be or something, temporarily.
Do you have a rough price, or are you looking for bids, or how you?
I put a minimum bid of $500. I think that's probably appropriate, it's probably worth that, and hopefully that's not too high for somebody to say, oh, I'm interested.
And this is a big one. This is not just a little for the public that doesn't know.
Up to 36 inches wide.
It's a good size.
Yep.
You can't put it in your kitchen or something. It's a big one.
Well, you could, but then you're not cooking dinner.
Okay. Motions, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, first motion was the consent agenda as presented, that was approved. The second motion was the approval of the regular agenda, that was approved. The third motion was to schedule a special meeting on March 28th at 4 p.m. for the purpose of the grant application for the MNRTF, and that was approved. If we do add items to that agenda, we'll have to either add them now, or if it's at that meeting, 2/3 of the board will have to approve it, correct, Roger, before it's put on that agenda?
Actually, you cannot add items at a special meeting unless everyone is present.
Okay, so if everyone is present and it's no problem, okay. So as long as everyone is at that meeting, we could add those 2 items to that special meeting.
Well, what if we added those two
Well, that's-
items and we just said not, we're not gonna
Yeah.
address it now? Isn't that better?
Yeah, so maybe when I'm done with the motions, we can make one last motion to put the two more items at that meeting.
Yeah, I always like to do that.
Okay, so that was approved for that special meeting. The fourth motion was to approve the Wade Trim revised proposal and authorize a supervisor to sign. That was approved. The fifth motion was to put aside $50,000 for township grant seed money, and that was approved. The sixth motion was to take the unallocated amount of the marijuana proceeds and give that to the conference room project. And that was approved. And the seventh motion was to approve the 2023 priority goals, and that was approved. So at this time, it'd be appropriate to add the two extra items to that special meeting, which I believe, as Roger had stated, would be the, what was that, Roger?
Authorizing the supervisor and clerk to execute the final draft of the planned unit development agreement for Heritage Silos LLC.
Want to take care of both items?
That's
My item.
Heritage Silos, PUD. And then what else was there?
The second one would be, actually, we have authorization, we don't need to go to a special meeting for the agreement with Hall Contracting, as long as the agreement,
You wanted Roger to look at it.
exactly, yep.
And that was actually in the motion that I didn't
Right.
state, that it
What
authorized.
was the other one?
Yeah, it authorized,
Give something back on the proposal.
Oh, yes. Potential additional decisions regarding the weight trim work.
In case they have something.
Yep. So consider appropriation request, maybe.
and I'll make that motion that we add those two items to the special meeting agenda on the 28th.
Support.
Everybody supports that.
Okay, so, yeah, I made the motion, and I'll just have Linda be the support. We had a lot of support, but you're closest.
Any other ones we need to add? We're good?
So we have three items now, so we'll have the,
And this is
yeah, that'll be,
3/28,
yeah,
right, Wednesday, or Tuesday, 3/28, March 28th at 4 o'clock.
yeah. And that, the original item was the grant application for the MNRTF. The second item will be for the Heritage Silos PUD, and then the third item would be the Wade Trim proposal appropriation, or appropriations proposal. If it's available, if not, we'll just can't, I guess you can always take it off. Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
So that was actually the eighth motion. And that was approved.
Okay. So, I don't think I have anything yet so far on the next agenda. Seems like I did, but maybe not. Any comments from anybody?
I just have something.
Linda?
I don't know if everyone has had time to read their township focus yet, but one of the items that I thought was of interest was the House Bill 4012. And it's about speed limits, and it's about modifies the procedure for establishing speed limits. So, and MTA is supporting that. So that might be something of interest to us. Yeah. The other thing that I found interesting was on page 12, the governor's presented her proposed budget for fiscal year 23-24, and there was lots of grant money opportunities for housing and community development and lots of stuff not, I know it's lots of money to us, to me, but that doesn't always mean it makes it to the UP. But it's always good to know what she's proposing. Not approved, proposed.
John?
Really specific to the bill that Trustee Winslow just mentioned, the modifying of rules for establishing speed limits. I had a conversation with the representative from Longyear this morning. They had a meeting with the Huron Woods and Blue Heron Bluffs folks yesterday up at Forestville Trailhead, I guess. And apparently it went pretty well, but the biggest concern that they expressed to her was the speed on County Road 492 approaching the Forestville intersection. And we just went through that traffic study, and we knew what the result was going to be, and sure enough it was. And the only compromise we got out of it was they didn't put speed limit 55 signs up. So a lot of people still think it's 45, and we'll live with it as long as possible. But if you go 55, they can't pull you over either, so.
I did see a 45 there the other day, so they didn't update that sign, which is good.
In the city.
Yes.
It is, yeah, it's right there.
So anyway, I think if any changes do happen, we should really pay attention and see if there's anything we can do. Now, County Road 492, obviously, that's a county primary. They might not even want to listen to us on that one, but I do think that if we have concerns about speed on any of our roads and the law gets changed to allow them to be modified to something more reasonable, we should be pushing for it.
When I first got back, or got on the board, that was 2008, I guess. That's when they, shortly after, took that power away from us. It used to be a triad of the state police and the township and the road commission. And we had input, and they took it away.
Well,
It's just that-
when has Lansing ever given anything to the townships? It's usually taking power away. Tax tribunal, classic case, right? They make decisions that our assessor is not legally allowed to do. So, anyway.
So I'll be monitoring it because I'm hugely concerned. Speed is what kills. And we need to slow that down, and maybe the city of Marquette would work with us as they need the speed slowed down by Market Mountain as well, so.
Too bad we don't have them on snowmobiles. We've lost too many visitors to speed on snowmobiles. Randy?
April 5th at 6:15 or 5:15 PM, we will have an election commission meeting to approve election inspectors for the May 2nd election. So
Right
just
before our
15
meeting.
minutes early for my election commission folks. 5:15 on April 5th.
So that'll be our next regular
Don't want to
meeting
eat
too,
that.
is April
Yes,
5th.
5:15 PM.
Don't go to Gladstone.
Don't go to Gladstone that day. And it's only a short meeting, but I will have it videoed, so it will be on the computer. It's something I have to do before an election, so.
Before the next township.
Anything else?
I would like to make one final motion.
Okay,
That's
I don't want you to make that
That we adjourn.
I'll support.
all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are
Dare say
adjourned
no,
at
but I know.
7:30.